Alright, what I'm going to do is break down a classic movie today, Wizard of Oz. It's interesting because this movie actually an occult movie, of course, and it deals directly with the chakras. So what I'm going to do is go through the entire movie, and while I go through the movie, I'm going to break down some of the occult symbology that they lay out in this movie through the chakras. Let me open up the chakra page. Kind of could go through some of that as well. It's an old ass movie, and it's actually one of about 13 different books written by Frank Baum or something like that. And the most famous out of those books is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. And Sam Raimi, who's a minor occultist, he did the Evil Dead series early on, and maybe a couple of other. He did Spider-Man as a popular movie, but Evil Dead he did out of college. The director Sam Raimi, and the Evil Dead was an occult movie about the Necronomicon, which they used the word Necronomicon in it in all three films. But Sam Raimi has kind of lightened up over the years, and he did Oz, which was very, very corny, very children-like in his nature. Some science, but not worth it. Now, the Wizard of Oz, the 1930 whatever movie, constantly through it, and from the book, they made a few changes in the movie from the book to make this chakra point, to step it up with the chakra point. The book is more alchemical and talking about the underworld, but even though this is still dealing with the underworld, Oz and whatnot, they actually do more things with colors to keep it in line with the chakras. And we're going to go through it. We're going to go through it from the start, the symbology. First, it starts off, and we gotta make sure I can read my own notes, in a place called Kansas. Now, Kansas is symbolic of Sirius in this movie. Sirius is the center sun in the universe, and Kansas is the center state in America. So they use Middle America as the middle point, or the center of the universe, or the center of America, representing the center of the universe, Kansas or Sirius, or basically home, as she was calling it, the true home. Now, the movie starts out, of course, in black and white, no color, and she's longing to go somewhere over the rainbow. And everyone should know in their basic understanding of the rainbow that the rainbow is a reference to the chakra system. So she's clearly saying about chakras. She wants to make it somewhere over the rainbow where dreams come true. She has the movie's about, or starts off with this chaos of her dog. And the dog represents Anubis, of course, as a guide dog. In the mythology, Anubis guides Osiris through the underworld. So Toto, of course, symbolizes the dog that's guiding her through the underworld, which in this case would be Oz. So she needed her dog, her guide dog, with her. The name Toto, T-O-T-O, means entirely, completely, wholly. And in holy, like as in, the holy of completion, not the divine holy, which is kind of like how the mythology points to the need for Anubis and the need, and it represents home, the dog star, which is also Sirius. So he's guiding her, he represents home, and so he must roll with her as this guide dog. In other books, Toto can actually talk. He can't talk in The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. Of course, they about this Elmira Gulch, who later becomes the witch, is threatening to take Toto, the dog, her guidance, and this inspires her to run away. Where she meets what later becomes the Wiz, but what he is he's a con man, and the first thing it says that, and he points out that he rolls with the crown heads of Europe. So this clearly is a reference to him being, in Gnostic mythology, this fake god or this fake demiurge, and they made a connection to Europe, a subtle connection to European science, if you will, as a huckster, as opposed to what we would know as real, true magic and whatever. The name Dorothy itself, Do-Ra, as in Dorothy, it actually means God's gift. That's the etymology of the word Dorothy, God's gift. And this is symbolic of, because what she represents is the consciousness. She represents consciousness and the ability to take that journey, if you will. So, which is looked at as a gift, and it's really our gift. So you see this fake wizard, this huckster from Europe, or who parlays or hangs around with the crown heads of Europe. He's conning her. He's telling her what she wants to hear. He's using trickery and illusion. And like I said, this goes towards, this speaks towards the demiurge or this false god. So he inspires her to go back home, basically saying, there's nothing here in this illusion for you. He had nothing to offer her. So since he had nothing to offer her, he did point her back towards her house, where as she's on her way home, of course, this twister comes. Now this twister, of course, represents Kundalini energy. And you can't have a chakra system without Kundalini. So this is the first thing you see. If you look at the caduceus, the yin-yang force, negative and positive polarity, they say if it was a three-dimensional view and you were able to stand over it and look at it, you would be looking at a whirlwind of negative and positive polarity swirling. So that always represented the tornado, or Kundalini, or the Kundalini rise. Now, because she's on her path over the rainbow, or through the chakras, or through the Kundalini, it must start there. The name, she lived with her aunt and her uncle. Uncle Henry and Aunt M, which the wizard says her name is Emily. Emily means rival, and Henry means volt, or electromagnetic force. So they put these two, rival, which is negative polarity, and force means like a positive polarity. So there you have her uncle and aunt as yin yang, and they don't mention her mother or father. And when you look in the books, they never mention the mother or father, but they later do mention that she is adopted by her aunt and her uncle Henry and Aunt M. The only thing I can think of for this reason is because what it subtly does is give you a mystical feeling, a Jesus-like or a Christ-like birth feeling to Dorothy. It becomes too tragic and too deep and too human if they says something happens to her mother or her parents, or there's a backstory. So without a backstory, you basically get to speculate, just like Jesus. I mean, you kind of know that Jesus is with Mary and Joseph, but you don't know, you know what I mean? All you really know is he's from God after that. And it kind of hits the same thing to make her a little bit more mystical. That's the only thing I could think of. Why they just didn't go with her parents. Now, after the twister, she lands in Munchkin World over the rainbow, and here's where you first start to see color. So she lands in the chakra system. The Munchkin World represents her changing from the quantum. Either you can look at it from, if you want to put inference on her being in Kansas as Ceres, she's in the quantum world and she's coming to the atomic world, which represents the Munchkin land. Or you can look at it the other way around. But what they're trying to show is her going from the atomic to the quantum, or the quantum to the atomic, whichever way you want to look at it, or whatever way you want to apply it. But she's changing the world, and the difference is clear once you get down to this. The Munchkins always represents size or everlasting life, as the Twa people represents. Now the Twa people represent the quantum world, but the atom represents something that's small. So it depends on how you want to look at it. I think the quantum world, or she's coming into the quantum world. Her house lands on the Wicked Witch of the East, and this is representing her as someone who's conquering the science of the East. And of course, we have this thing where the consciousness rose up in the East, or the sun rises in the East, or begins in the East and it sets in the West. So of course, her end fight has to become with the Wicked Witch of the West. She meets the Good Witch of the North, which only leaves one location left, the Witch of the South. So Dorothy, and she asks Dorothy, the Good Witch of the North, are you a good witch or a bad witch? Pointing out that Dorothy is representing a witch from the South, because that's the only one that's left, and the South represents humanity, or coming from the root chakra. So she's basically saying, are you a human witch? Now, she lands on the Witch of the East, and she's dead, which represents us, her house from. She's about to deal with shit in the West, just like the black man, black woman in the West. And of course, it starts off with the ruby red slippers that goes to her feet, and that's of course dealing with the root chakra. So here's where we start with the root chakra. And then they sing a song, Meet the Lady Who Fell from the Star. The star name is Candace. It's a clear reference to Sirius. Now she lands in a place called Oz, of course, we know this. Oz, or OZ, is short for ounce. An ounce is 1/16 of a pound, or 16 grams. And 1/16 of a pound, 1 + 6 is 7. She's in the world of 7. She's in the chakra world, which is Oz. One other thing, Elmira Gulch. The name Elmira Gulch is the lady who is the Wicked Witch in Kansas before she's revealed as the witch. She's just the greedy lady that Aunt M says owns half of the county. The name Elmira means princess or aristocratic lady, and the name Gulch actually means greedy. So she represents the greedy powers that be, or the greed, the system of greed, if you will, or basically white folks. The name Glinda, the Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, means good, fair. It's Welsh in Oregon, but it means good, fair, or fair. You get what I'm saying? Dorothy's name, as I pointed out, is God's gift, and her last name is Gale. Her last name is Dorothy Gale. Gale means wind. So Kundalini. So she's God's gift, which is wind or Kundalini. Alright, so that's their names. Now we're at where she gets these red shoes, and this goes on her feet. The feet are an extension of the root chakra. And so this is where it begins. Now, the next thing you see is orange. And that is your second chakra, and the Good Witch of the North has on orange. Her dress is orange. And she tells you about the yellow brick road, which is the third chakra. Which is the third chakra. So you have the three lower chakras already recognized. And she tells her to follow the yellow brick road, of course. And the third chakra, or the solar chakra, or the yellow brick road, is your intention or your will. So her walk in this path is definitely represents this chakra. On this path, she rolls into an entity called the Scarecrow. Now, the Scarecrow doesn't have a brain. Then she rolls, of course, into the Tin Man. He doesn't have a heart. And then she meets the Lion, who doesn't have courage. So automatically, these three things symbolize her ego. First, 3 levels going down: the head, the heart, then the lower self, or the animal self, courage. And all 3 of these things she actually has to work on as a form of her ego, or actually have to conquer to get over her ego, open them up, and so she could actually move on and go home. She's doing the alchemy, if you will. The Scarecrow represents the mind, and he's scared of fire. That's because he's scared of Kundalini light. It is, once you are illuminated, it says there's a flame around your head, or a light around your head. So of course he's scared of fire. He has no brain. The Tin Man, his heart is frozen. Well, he was frozen from stiffness, and this is because he's gotten wet. Water represents emotion, and this was something that was his big problem, him getting wet or him crying. He was standing in the rain, and because he has no heart and he can't deal with emotion, he froze up. And the Lion, of course, just has no courage. He's just a scared human, or he's just a scared animal based upon his lower self, and so on and so forth. So these 3 parts represent 3 parts of her ego, her psyche. She must walk with them and satisfy them for her to actually move on to the next level in alchemy. Now, let's see what's next. All right, so, right, and that line represents human insecurities, false intimidation as well. You know what I mean? Now, as they're walking, all three of them, the first thing the witch does, right before they get to the Emerald City, which is all green, which is the heart chakra, of course, they hit a poppy field. Now, the poppy field puts them to sleep. What this represents is in people who are doing chakra work, if they don't understand, they should understand, the chakras are separated by your three lower chakras, your heart, which is the gateway, and then the three upper chakras. The three lower chakras represent the lower self. And it's the changeover or the transformation or the Christ energy or the consciousness happens in the heart chakra. Meaning there's a lot of symbology in releasing the three lower chakras of the animal self or your selfish ego or lower nature in the heart chakra. The heart chakra is where the child, the wounded child is healed, and the wounded child is developed in the first three chakras. And basically you grow up or you release your human thought process in the lower chakras to move on to a more divine agenda. So them falling out in the poppy field before they got to the heart chakra was them dying to their old self, their lower self, the first three chakras, and being able to be reborn or transformed into the heart chakra. So it was very symbolic through the poppies of them falling when they go through the poppy field. And they get to the Emerald City and they can't get in. But their ticket in was Dorothy showing them the shoes, which is another way of saying, I've done the work. I've opened up the root chakra. I'm grounded in this, and this is serious business. This lets them into the heart chakra or the Emerald City, where they get all gussied the fuck up. They start getting new clothes, cleaned, washed, redeemed. The lion gets a perm. A lot of shit going on in terms of cleaning and rebirthing them, preparing them to see the wizard. They get cleaned up. Now, while this is happening, the witch comes and she writes in the sky the words, "Surrender, Dorothy." Now, as we see that, and that's just, ooh, the wicked witch. But as an occultist, we should understand what they're talking about is you need to surrender to the higher self. Because she represents the pineal gland. And she's basically telling Dorothy to surrender her true self. Because, what she's about to happen. If we understand the occult understanding of this. Now, this is, at this point, the lion starts to sing a song, "If I Was King of the Forest." And while they're doing it, they're wrapping and draping him in green. Because this was a display, this was an extra song, because each one of them got a song. So this was an extra song that the lion was singing. Because this was pointing out that the animal, it was showing you how important and pivotal it is to get into the heart chakra. So they crown this animal king of the forest. and they drape him all in green. They give him a crown. They drape him in this green cape. They ensconcing him in this heart chakra. And this is just to make more of a point of the important gateway that they're at. And so soon after, the doorman comes and tells them no, they cannot come in and see the wizard. And Dorothy tells them the story. The doorman cries because, remember, he is in the heart chakra, so they had to show a display of something from the heart. So he starts crying, says, I had an Auntie M too, and says we're going to let her see the whiz, or the wizard. You know, niggas want to make everything a whiz. So they're walking down this hallway, and the hallway looks amazingly like a throat, or the throat chakra. So now you have them in her getting the red shoes, the orange of the dress, the yellow brick road, the green of Emerald City, and then now you need the fifth chakra. Now, two things are happening with the fifth chakra. Blue, which represents the throat chakra or creativity or the voice. You notice Dorothy had a blue dress on the whole time. And this is because throughout the movie, she's coming up with the most creative ideas. She's telling everybody, you got a problem? Let's go see the whiz. Or the wizard, and we could do this, and we could do that, and let's go this way and that way and the other way. Now the three that are with her also come up with good ideas because they're just an extension of her and her ego. But that's what the blue represented in her dress, her creativity. But clearly the wizard was the throat chakra, because you walk down these long hallways that looks like the throat, and you get to nothing but a vicious face and a voice. Now what's interesting, to subtly show you, the wizard subtly showing you his connection to the throat chakra, he would tell them to speak, then say word, then as soon as they speak, he would say quiet to each one of them. Dorothy would speak, who are you? She would speak, enough. He would cut them off. He said the word quiet, enough, silence, shut up. He said it close to 4 to 5 times to these people. So he would command them to speak, then command them to shut up. Command them to speak, command them to shut up. He was, or they was subtly or subconsciously trying to show you his command of voice, which represented the throat chakra. He gave him nothing but the word. And the word was, you're going to have to deal with the witch. He's bringing him to the pineal gland. The witch lived on a mountain in the haunted forest. And you remember Jacob fought on Mount Pineal. The mountain always represents the pineal gland. And they had to cut through or traverse through the haunted forest. And in Kabbalah, this represented the Doth. So they had to cross the abyss to get to the pineal gland. On the human body, the Doth also represents the throat. It is represented, is why you see old Jewish men with a long beard, because that beard represents the Doth, or the hidden, or sometimes it is represented as the medulla oblongata, because it's technically behind the tree. But either way, symbolized in the dark forest, where they see symbols of the pineal gland there. Well, they see symbols of the dead. You know, I do believe in spooks. I do believe in spooks. They see an owl, which represents the pineal gland. Now, in mythology, there's a Set represents, once the understanding is decoded, that Set, or Satan, which later became Satan, represents the pineal gland itself, actually. And you'll hear in the stories that when Set slayed his brother Osiris, he had what they call 72 conspirators, or 72 helpers. Later on, this has been decoded as the 72 Goetia in by Crowley and McGregor Mathers. They never really made progress in terms of being able to access the 72 Goetia beyond finding out their names and descriptions, but they never were able to really get into the Goetia and use them as anything other than being able to describe them. But the description of the 72 demons that rest, or the 72 conspirators of Set, represent the 72 minor chakras that lie in your pineal gland. So it is a detailed description of your pineal gland. In The Wizard of Oz, the flying monkeys represent the Goetia. They represent the Goetia, who is helping the witch, who represents the pineal gland. She has a lavender crystal ball, which represents the pineal or the crown chakra, or her ability to use and work with the pineal or the crown chakra. This is, and be able to see things. This is the witch. And she feels incomplete. That's why she needs the red slippers, because she's trying to get the power of the East, which was, or the power that was rooted in the East, which her sister had control over, symbolized through the red slippers. Now that Dorothy has them on her feet, Dorothy's coming from the East, dealing with the West. The Witch of the West is trying to get the science of the East. The same way the white man here is trying to get the science of the black man through stealing from the black man, as opposed to doing his own work. So she was trying to do the same thing with the slippers, symbolically representing the power of her sister, the power of the East. Now, as they're going through their bullshit, we know that water is eventually the thing that she's allergic to, and it kills her. What they're talking about is basically melanin, or is this basically opening up the pineal gland, or melting the pineal gland. So the pineal gland is calcified until you raise Kundalini, and there's a melanin rush to release it, or you can look at it and say symbolically melt it to open it up. For the white man, it's calcified. They're allergic to. They're saying they're allergic to water, or they can't deal with water, or they can't deal with melanin. Us, once we get it, we know that's the ultimate goal. I'm melting, and then like we're free. Basically, you're freeing yourself through the science of melanin. The wizard wants the broomstick, which represents the spine in this case, and there's a couple of references. I know she definitely does it once, where she lights the broomstick, and you see an illuminated broomstick with the illuminated spine. Or just it represented the spine, at the top, illumination. Yet again, another reference to it. And after she put the broom out and they gave it to Dorothy, if you look at it, it looks like there was a pine cone at the end of the broom, and that has always been significant or connected to the pine. Symbolic of the pineal gland. Even now, the Pope has a staff with pineapple on the end of it. That's one of his staffs because it represents the pineal gland. They go back to Oz to only find out that he's a fake. He's the demiurge. He's the fake god. Now, I've done things, and you can find plenty of stuff on Gnosticism to understand about Yaldabaoth. The bullshit God that people have been worshiping, the illusionist that created this matrix that we've been worshiping as the Almighty God, but is clearly a fake. Only as an occultist to understand that you're supposed to be worshiping yourself. And the same way as we jump forward in the movie, Dorothy had the ability to go home the whole time. Is you're the one who's supposed to redeem yourself as opposed to something outside of you that's supposed to save you, like the wizard is. Now, so if you get deep into Gnosticism, you'll get an understanding of what they're pointing out there. So, but he has a use, and even in Gnosticism, they talk about the demiurge or this faith god's energy will be used to help redeem the true gods or the true black man. So basically, the energy that actually locked us down here in the Matrix will be actually used as a battery to get up out of here. That's in Gnosticism as well. That's Gnostic philosophy. And so, of course, to take the whiz or the wizard still has to have some form of a use. So what he does is he appeases the three parts of Dorothy's ego, because that's all really a fake god can do, appease your ego. So he tells the scarecrow, you want a brain? Here's a diploma. Now you have a brain. And he's all of a sudden, I feel smart. You want courage? Here's a medal. So all of a sudden, you have courage. And he said, you need a heart? Here's what they call a testimonial for good deed doers. And he said, wow, it even has a clock on it. So what he did was appease Dorothy's ego, something I talked about in the occult, that you're not here to destroy your ego. You can't do it. Your humanity needs an ego to survive. So what you need to do is do things to appease your ego. And that's what the Oz does for Dorothy's ego. The three aspects of it. Brain, heart, and lower self. Oz lets Dorothy know, I'm an old Kansas man myself, or I'm an old nigga from Sirius myself, and I'm going to try to get you home. Meaning, and you can, the demiurge is basically saying, I am from where you're from, even though I'm over here hustling and bullshitting, still from where you're from. Now, he's now, because he's full of shit though, he's not going to take her ass anywhere. So she's in this balloon thinking she's going home. She's only going to the astral world. The astral world is not home. It's an extension of the illusion. So she's just going to go into a different part of the illusion with this illusionist. And yet again, Toto saves her ass by chasing this cat, or jumps out of the balloon, and jumps out of the balloon, and she jumps out, and then it definitely takes off, and he's fucked up. Well, she's not fucked up actually. Then this purple bubble comes from the north. It's the witch of the north. So she comes in the crown chakra. She's coming to really deliver a home. That's why you see this purple bubble. She explains to Dorothy that Dorothy always has the power. Now this is one of the basic occult understandings, that your entire transformation lies within. That there's nobody can save you. I've seen motherfuckers write, we need to bow down in front of teachers. It's fucking ridiculous. you are no more than, with this mentality, is nothing more than just fucking following the Wizard of Oz. What you need to do is understand that you have this power to deliver yourself back to home, because that's really what consciousness really is, to try to find rest out of this matrix or this habit. And Dorothy basically says, well, basically, you should have told me this a long time ago, and we would have ended this. And the Witch of the North tells her, no, you have to learn this for yourself. This is something that you have to realize, that no one can tell you. So again, with this whole mentality of we need to bow down in front of teachers, is fucking ridiculous, because this is something that you must learn for yourself. Dorothy also points out the next time she wants to look for her heart's desire, she only has to look in her own backyard. She doesn't have to go anywhere for this. Which is another reference to saying you have to take this inner journey. You don't have to go to fucking Egypt. You don't have to go to Cambodia. You don't have to go anywhere. It's an inner journey that you need to do. So of course she tells her to click her heels 3 times, which is representing a third dimension, or the control of a third dimension, while she's waving the star behind her head. And she's chanting there's no place like home, because she's willing herself to take her ass back home. So all of that to say, you went through the whole chakra system, the whole scientific journey of alchemy in a children's movie. The end.